Hey, I may have picked a very strange spot to go live. I'm holding my camera right now. I've got no good angle, but in case you don't recognize the shared ceiling here, I'm actually at SOPA. So if you happen to be around the city at the moment, then come to join me next hour or so. We're just hanging around after a workshop. You actually see I'm actually right. I think many of us watching this know exactly where I am. It's pretty quiet on the weekdays. I haven't really announced anything yet, but here I am. So we've just finished our second day of the Kisik Lee seminar. So yesterday we had a lot of background information on the process and why artists want to learn this process and the importance of training, of having constructive coaching and so on. And today was more talking about some of the finer points of the KSL cycle. I'm not going to explore them in detail, but I just want to share my thoughts and reflections on what I've learned, especially what really resonated with me, thinking about my own development or lack thereof as an archer. I want to start off by talking about the swan. I drew a swan. So the imagery that was used in the seminar was that um, swans are very regal creatures. So you see them very calm and serene on top of the water, but what you don't see is the paddling beneath. And the mentality going into a coaching course, and this applies to all coaching, I think, is that you have to understand how an archer operates. So it isn't just like watching them shoot really well and copying what they do really well on the surface, but it's also about understanding what they are doing to get to that point. And that's kind of the basis of any coaching program. And Kisik Lee used that analogy to introduce KSL to us. There were quite a few things happening. I've got my revision notes here again. There'll be an exam of this, so I want to make sure I know exactly what I'm talking about. But there were a lot of things to think about in terms of what can go right and wrong in our technique. And I mean, roughly speaking, and this isn't being comprehensive, but a lot of archery technique, what people do, comes down to three things. That's a physical, mental, and technique. I've said this before in other videos, other streams. I do it myself too. When you examine someone's shooting, not the technique, but shooting. Sorry about my camera. When you examine someone shooting, you have to look at not just their technique, their physical technique. You also need to look at their equipment for one, as well as their mental process. And often, the mental process is it's what people miss out on in this process. So they have everything else. Equipment might be well tuned, they might have good technique, but the mental game might be weak. And I'll say for myself, the mental game for me has been very weak recently. So learning about this, the mental game was really important. That's one of the biggest revelation for me. So I do apologize for the camera's face. I can face this way, but I'll be kind of blacked out by the sun. So let's not do that. I'll just do it this way. I'll just casually hold my phone, and you get sick later. That's fine. Not my fault. So yeah, feel free to ask questions. I know I'm just awkwardly doing this while I'm sitting on a bench. But let's go through some things that I really picked up on. So let's see. We've got a few things about technical points. One of the things which is this wasn't mentioned in the seminar, but there's a mantra which I think I mentioned not long ago on a live stream. Something which I thought was really important to remember is to shoot the arrow, not the score. And what this means is that when you are fixated on the result, then you lose process. And that's the basis of much of target panic. And target panic is a psychological condition, it's a mental condition which prevents the archer from executing the shot. And we spent a lot of time today analyzing target panic. I've done a video on that already, actually. Some of the things that sit in that video, I think were vaguely related to what we were addressing in the seminar. But there were also kind of old ways in which people address target panic. And the thing which people tend to be told is remove the target, do do blind ball shooting, or shoot really close, and that sort of thing can help perhaps. It might restore confidence, but in the end, and the question that was raised by Coach Lee was that for many people, if you put the target back up, then the same problems will apply. So you don't really solve target panic, you just practice shooting something else, but the problem's still there. And what it can come down to is process. And again, this is a big fundamental part in most archery styles and systems. It's about process. Archery isn't an aiming sport, it's a process sport. And by following the right process, you can reach a certain result. You won't aim consciously for the most part. And that's kind of what we're working towards. So the short answer to solving target panic is to address your process. Whatever your process is, going through your process is going to attack your target panic. If you avoid target panic by shooting something else, you don't necessarily address the core of the problem. And in many cases, target panic is caused by a lack of process or a loss of process. And that's something really big to keep in mind. No specific details there, but for many people, that's going to be a very big kind of like, I guess, mind-blowing revelation is if you're not shooting well and you just can't get on target or you can't shoot, examine your process. So that was a very, very big part there. Thank you, Super Honest, by the way. I'm not sure if I'm training hard, but I'm learning a lot. I guess on that note, it's not just about training, it's also about like learning. You don't just play the sport, you don't play the game, you study the game. If you genuinely want to become better, you have to enhance your knowledge. Now, a lot of people will learn by doing, and you will often get people who are very talented and succeed purely based on talent. That isn't always the case of all people. And what you may have to really do is look at formal study, like actually study, in this case, archery. Don't just read books. Books are a great starting point, but go to people who can teach you. I'm very fortunate that Coach Kisik Lee is in town, so therefore we can do this. So we also touched upon a few things, looking at things like some of the common myths of archery. We examined some of the myths caused especially by compound shooting. So quite a few of the things that people talk about in terms of solving target panic or addressing form issues actually come from compound shooters. And that's something which we touched on. And we also addressed the idea of eye dominance too. So we were talking about the different perspectives on whether people should go towards their eye dominance or their hand dominance. So if you, for example, if you are cross dominant, you have let's say left eye dominant but you're right-handed. There's a lot of debate over whether you should go with your eye or would you go with your hand. And in fact, people are successful with both approaches. But the thing which came up was that because archery is not really an aiming sport, you don't really aim, it's about form and process technique, the dexterity you have with your dominant hand may be more advantageous for many people. And it's a funny thing was when we're talking with the other coaches and other instructors at the seminar, like we had a pretty interesting split. Like some places went with eye dominance, some places went with hand dominance. I know in my club we go by hand. It's easier. Other clubs go by hand because on principle you train hand dominance. But for us it's like, look, if you're right-handed, here's a right-handed bow. I know some people will switch to a left-handed bow. Like once we realize someone's left eye dominant, we might give them a left-handed bow to try. But yeah, that discussion was had about how there are advantages to training with your dominant hand because your eyes don't really matter that much. You will train yourself to focus on target, but because it's about process, then someone who is very poor in the opposite hand will have a much harder time developing. And that was something which is an interesting point of discussion, and there was some contention about that too, which is a good discussion to have here. So we also touched upon. By the way, Nathan, like I'm down the road, so if you're not like catch up for dinner or something, like just let me know. I'm free for the next couple of like afternoons or something. So if you're down the road, just let me know. I'm pretty much close by. Um, let's see what else do we have to talk there. We talked about some major points in competition. We actually did a lot of analysis of competitive archers and how they break down, and Coach Lee shared many anecdotes, which I won't share here, but he shared many anecdotes in his many years of experience in coaching and observing Olympic Games and World Championships and where people go wrong, including some actual really meaningful experiences with high-level archers, which, like, I'll say this, like, sometimes as a teacher, you see people have that moment where they realize that they've learned something, they've overcome their weaknesses, and sometimes the right person in the right place in the right time can be the bringer of knowledge that can unblock you. And if Coach Lee sharing so many experiences, it's hard to say, well, like he's right. And he addressed so many analysis videos of different archers and numerous programs, and looking at before and after videos. And that was a real eye opener, just to see how with a few mental steps you can address many faults, things like target panic, things like having no back tension. Funny thing too is that when looking at the videos, I definitely saw myself. I think many of us watching that saw ourselves some way. So every video that we analyze, I've made that mistake before. I've definitely made the mistake before. I do it now. I mean, while we were analyzing, it was actually on my phone, on my YouTube channel, looking at my old practice videos from the last month, and I've been feeling really bad at my shooting, like awful. I know I'm doing things wrong, but just not having that mentality to break through and find out what's going wrong, just kind of more worrying about what is bad and what's not working. You can definitely see some of the form faults, and we address things like the hollow back, how not having the right posture and stance and foot balance, the weight distribution would result in a more likelihood of a hollow back. Things like my elbow being out of alignment. Those things were quite evident in what we watched, and I was sort of sneaking through and watching my own videos, and I thought, wow, in my older videos, so like 2013 or so on, where I actually felt good about my shooting, I didn't have these problems. But when I'm feeling really bad about my shooting, and my recent form videos check out on this, you can see, and now that I have the vision to look at what I'm trying to examine, I can feel what I'm doing right and wrong, not mostly wrong in this case. So definitely, we really talk about the benefits of video analysis, if not high speed, just normal video, but having that analysis comparison is can be a huge game changer. I'm really looking forward to going back and applying some of this myself in the next practice video. But we did a lot of stretch band work in the meantime. We've got again a lot of talk about some of the main causes of inconsistencies, and talk about some tools they used. And the big part today was talking about the mental game, or the mindset involved in the shot process. Let's see, it's going through. Another good mantra here was train for competition, not the score. So it's not just not about getting a high score, but being able to do so in a competitive environment and having that mental strength and resilience to compete, not just shoot high scores, but to compete. There's also a nice little comment too, how many people say that archery is 90% mental game, which is true, but it isn't just mental game. You also need the right technique to go with it. So you can't just teach someone mentality, but don't have the right technique too. So that's something there, which is happening. That was interesting to discuss and debate. I'm telling you, this isn't a holiday. Well, it kind of is, but that's a lot of studying. Like, we're there from like 8 in the morning to like 4 o'clock, 4:30. We focus a lot more on KSL shot process. a lot of target panic. A lot of target. I thought I had target panic. I think I was a pretty mild case. I think for me it's mostly physical, but mental as well. But we saw a lot of target panic. Like there were some examples of, for example, archers who were, you know, who couldn't literally pull the string back. They would lift the bow up and set it down right away. Lift it up, set it down. There was no ability to continue the process because nothing felt right. And there were some pretty extreme examples of that. And part of our analysis, and part of what we're learning at the seminar is how to recognize certain form faults and symptoms of target panic, and some of these really obvious, but also how to approach people who could benefit from having a more rigid process, especially conscious one. Again, one of the things which was discussed in fairly big detail and debated in big detail was which parts of the process are conscious and which parts are subconscious. Let's see, lots of diagrams. Oh, the squeeze drill. Oh, that was fun. Let's look at the detail about squeeze drill. It sounds weird when I mention it here, but Coach Lee got me up there and got me to do a full draw of the stretching band, and he and somebody else had to squeeze me together, push my arms and elbows back together, and we had to like maintain that full draw rather than collapse on it. So that was fun. Nice little test to have. Talk about heart rate. That's interesting. And a whole bunch more diagrams. And that's the entire thing. I guess the only thing here which I really want to just touch on is timing. It was a really detailed discussion on timing, but like when we say don't rush the shot, that can mean a lot of things, but a lot of us don't settle into a good rhythm. I think that's the general gist I'll summarize for the sake of this video. Is we don't want to go through and shoot when we're not mentally ready. That's what I got out of it. There's something which I've seen in people as well. Like some people take way too long. Some people just rush through and shoot everything way too quickly. And the key to take out of this is like make sure you're not just physically ready to shoot, but you are mentally ready to shoot. And there should be a step in your process where you do check in and you tell yourself that you are mentally ready. Because at the end, if you just rush into the anchor point, draw and execute your shot, you can't take it back. And many mistakes happen because you're not paying attention. I think a lot of us can relate to that. And yeah, I think that's the Spark Notes version, or Cliff Notes version. More tomorrow, in exam time. But that's pretty much where we're at. So again, I haven't had a chance to really apply this. I've just had to bring my bow. I'm watching someone who is. I'll flip over. Watch James for a bit of them. So we had a bit of fun doing so. But it's gonna be really fascinating to actually check out the Maidan Archery. I'm not sure if I mentioned to you guys last time, but I'm going to Maidan Archery this weekend. So I've checked in with Ahmed, so he'll be picking me up on Saturday. And we'll be going to his club on Sunday. I hope things will be fine on Sunday as well. So I'm going from a very intense sport-based seminar to a very intense traditional workshop. So pretty great. I actually did bring my bow. I showed you in the hotel last time. I brought my bow. I brought my thumb rings this time. Last time I went to Archery Ascension, I didn't bring my thumb rings, so that was kind of awkward, but it worked out fine in the end. But now we'll be going from archery to archery. So what an interesting experience this is, to spend a bit of time in Sydney and doing the whole gauntlet of Olympic archery and traditional Turkish archery. I think that's it for my log. I know this is a weird time for most of you watching this. Good morning. Where are you, Gizmomo? So yeah, it's what time is it here? 6:15 here at the moment. So yeah, I'm still pretty flexible. Croatia kind of makes sense. So it's still pretty flexible. Next few days, gonna get some downtime. Might be meeting up with some people. I've contacted a few people on Instagram, Facebook, and so on. Met up with Kayla and Gareth yesterday. Had a nice Japanese dinner, which is really good. And we'll see what happens today. A bit of downtime, maybe some extra sleep. But I think we're doing pretty well. China. Wow. Okay, that's not that late in China. Anyway, yeah, feel free to add a comment below if you want to. I'll probably touch base later on. And we'll probably do a day 3 reflection tomorrow night. Probably a little later. But yeah, change of scenery. Have been having really good time at the moment. I think most of us are going through information overload, but really enjoyed the seminar so far. Anyway, enough talk. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.